evening and welcome to Oscar Adams Gymnasium. Jason Liggett joined by Urbana High School senior wrestler Michael Monreal. Michael, thanks for joining us in the broadcast booth this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And we are set for a dual meet between the Champaign Central Maroons, the St. Thomas More Sabers, the Champaign Centennial Chargers, and your Urbana Tigers. And starting on mat number 1 will be the Urbana Tigers and St. Thomas More Sabers, and I know we only probably end up having one match on that mat, as Urbana and St. Thomas More don't have every weight class available to them.
Yeah, we so pretty much just what ended up happening was we filled out where they didn't, and the only weight class we evened up at was at 38. So when Coach Sabers brought us all together, he said, we got one match, and it's Will. So we got this, but then we got a little bit of waiting, because after that we have Central and Centennial have to finish their duel, and they have full lineups. It'll be a fun night, though.
And then in Urbana's second match will be against Central, and their third and final match of the evening will be against Champaign Centennial. And we're underway here, the 138 matchup with Will Brown from the Urbana Tigers.
Will's he's a junior. He didn't seem like he was too into it as a freshman, but most people have a pretty rough freshman year. It's kind of tough, but he's come in a lot and he's gotten a lot better, and he came around to it, and now he really likes it. He's had a lot more success than in the past 2 years, and nothing there yet, and that's 2. So anyone who doesn't know, that is a takedown, which is worth 2 points in wrestling. And that is a reversal, which is also worth 2 points. So it is now 2-2. And if you stand up and escape, that is 1 point to you. So that's pretty much the beginning things you need to know. Besides, if at any point a pin happens, the ref will blow his whistle and slap the mat at the same time, letting the two know that that's it, that's the match.
And if you're not as familiar with the rules, obviously you can win by pin, but winning by points, it's just whoever's ahead at a certain time point.
Yep, that, or if that is back points, so he has an exposed back, so that means he gets some points for it. If you hold him there for 3 seconds, that's 2 points. If you hold him there for 5 seconds, it is 3 points.
Well, and we saw Will really battle out of that, and he ended up on top there.
Oh, and there was a technical violation. I think Will accidentally had a hold of the headgear. Yep. And then he got the 3, so it's 9-3.
So 9-3 in favor of St. Thomas More here in the 138 with Will Brown competing for the Tigers.
So pretty much just that, and there is one other way you can win. It's a tech fall. So if you are winning by 15 points or more, the ref will just stop the match. They'll say, you know, that's it. You guys are done. That's enough. It's, in my opinion, it's probably the worst way to lose.
Absolutely, almost similar to a blowout or something that you would see in football or basketball or some of the more mainstream sports that people might be a little bit more used to.
It's very coming up with your head high after a tech fall is probably the hardest thing to do. It's a lot easier to get over a pin than it is a tech fall, because a pin, there could have been just a certain situation where he caught you in a bad position, or, you know, maybe, you know, he was just real strong and that ended up pinning you. But a tech fall is just, you pretty much just got dominated, and that's the hardest part to deal with the tech fall.
Well, and we see Will Brown right here really battling this off. He's on his back, but fighting off the Sabers here.
Yep, he has one shoulder up just barely, and that's what's saving him. That, I cannot see the other shoulder. And he got up. He got off of it. Around him.
Well, it's 12-3 now in favor of St. Thomas More. Tough matchup for Will Brown, but he's really battling out there, Michael.
Yeah, he pretty much even if you're losing bad, you got to go out there and for your pride at least. So it's even though it's 12-4, I know he'll still keep battling, and you can still win. That's one thing that people always they don't think about. I remember in a case I was down in a match 13-2 and pinned the kid. So that's why you never, until the ref says it's over, you do not stop, because you never know what could happen. You could catch him in a horrible position and get a pin. You could score a whole bunch of points and tie the match up. You take the lead even.
We saw Will in a little bit of a predicament there, and it seemed like he kind of went out of bounds.
Yep.
And
so
that's another strategy you can clearly have.
Yes, but at the same time, you have to be very careful because a ref will call stalling, and the way is they'll put their fist in the air of the color that they're calling it on. So Will is green because he is the home team. I believe he should be green. No, he is not. I guess when they did the disc flip, STM chose green, so we are red, so you might get docked for stalling, or the IHSA wanted to make the out-of-bounds rule a little bit better because a lot of people have complained about it. So now, as long as you can have literally, some people have said you can have a toe in bounds and they won't call it. It's more so kind of up to the ref. Refs are always different, and Coach Tabaris always preaches you can't leave it in the hands of a ref because they all are different. None of them will ref the exact same as the other.
Absolutely.
It's that's why any of the refs I know, when you talk to them a little bit in weigh-ins or any of that, I always try to stay on their good side so they know me, they don't have any issues with me.
Well, we have a minute 20 left here in the third period. STM ahead of Urbana 18-4 at this point. Will finds himself again on his back, but battling out.
Yep, and even if he rolls out of this, that'll be match. It'll be a tech. And that's a pin, so that'll be 16 points for St. Thomas More. The way the point system works, or not 16, it'll be 6 points to STM. If you pin your kid, you get 6. If you tech fall him, you get 5. And I believe a major's 3. I could be wrong, though. And that is the one and only match between Urbana and STM tonight.
Well, and, you talk a little bit about the team scoring right there at the end, but as much as this is a team sport, there's, a lot of individual aspects to it, clearly.
And, once you get into the tournaments and stuff like that and the regionals and all that, that's really when it becomes an individual sport. Because, obviously you can go to team state if you win out at your regional, if you win team-wise. But if not, then, then it's just up to you to keep going, and the more you win, the more you wrestle. And, say you go out there at your regional and you lose your first 2 matches, that's it, that's the season. Unless you are a freshman or sophomore, which it's not IHSA ran, but it is a freshman-sophomore state, so that way they can get a little more experience in and get more mat time, as they might not get to with, having to wrestle behind seniors and juniors and maybe not getting the experience they need.
And we've shifted over. The audience can now see Champaign Central and Champaign Centennial battling it out. And as we pointed out earlier, they have a lot more weight classes available.
Oh, yeah.
So Urbana and St. Thomas More will get a little bit of a break before Central will pair off against Urbana coming up next.
Yeah, and I mean, Coach T, even though it is a very team sport, he will preach, like, with our low numbers, it's very individual with us as well. So, like, team-wise, I believe my sophomore year it was Centennial that won Twin City as a whole. But me, Elijah Rogers, and Luke Luffman all went 3-0, and we were technically Twin City champions because we won out that day.
Well, I think St. Thomas More is in that exact same situation, maybe even a little bit more so. They only have 6 wrestlers on their entire team.
Right, and I mean, I can attest to that because I believe our sophomore year we only had 8. It's a tough sport, and there are a lot of people that quit throughout the year. And you know, you try to get them to stay, but they just, no matter what you do, they will not stay, and it's just it's a grind, and you have to be willing to put in a lot of work. You know, not just during the season, in the off season. You have, unless you're, you know, weighing 240 pounds and you're a heavyweight, or, you know, weighing 90 or 89 pounds at a 106, which is common for some teams. It's also a struggle with, you know, you gotta keep watch of your weight, and that's always been tough because, you know, you'll go to bed hungry at night sometimes. It's not fun, but it's all worth it in the end.
Well, in some of the weight classes, you know, whether it be a 132 to 126 or 132 to 138, you know, you might come in at a heavier weight class, but if someone else on the team kind of has that spot nailed down, you might move up or down, I would assume, right?
Right, yeah. So I considered going 182 as a sophomore, but a guy who graduated last year, who's our he placed second at state last year and is the Century Club member, AJ Fox. He was the 82, and Luke was the 220, and I said, you know what, I'll meet in the middle, and I went 195 my sophomore year, and it did pretty all right compared to my freshman year.
AJ Fox having success last year on an individual basis, as you mentioned, second in the state. Clearly, Luke Luffman continued success. And hopefully he'll continue that this year.
Would be his third straight.
Yeah, absolutely. And then off to Illinois as he's committed to the University of Illinois,
yep.
which has a very strong wrestling program.
Yep, it's pretty great to see him, you know, going off to Illinois, and just I'm happy for him, you know. We AJ, for anyone who was wondering, ended up going to Milliken in Decatur. He is playing football and wrestling, and I believe he's going 197 because he was an 82 from his sophomore year to his senior year, and that was always a bit of a struggle with him, considering he was, you know, very lean and didn't have a lot of fat on him. It's the way I put it in perspective is it's a lot easier for me to run off 4 pounds than it would be for someone like AJ because I have more to work with. Ooh, saved by the bell.
And Centennial here is the home team or the guests over here?
I would assume home just because I believe the Central kid is winning. But, you know, back to what I was saying earlier about how not a lot of people stick it through. there's even more people that, they may finish 1 or 2 years, but they don't. There's a lot of guys that never did all 4 years just because, there are some situations where a guy quit as a freshman and then came back every year, but there are people that won't join until their senior year that just don't even think to until they're a senior, and it's rough, because you got guys that, you don't see as many guys that are at your experience level because you're most likely going to be on the varsity, depending on, who you have at your weight class, if anyone.
Yeah, I imagine there's a large learning curve, especially if they didn't have any youth wrestling or anything and new to the sport. Coming in when you're 17 years old as a senior and not quite sure what to expect, in general, but especially the grueling practices and, as you discussed, the weight training, the weight loss, or the eating and dieting.
And, I started as a freshman, and the thing I did was honestly, it wasn't the smartest thing. So I weighed 170 pounds, and instead of going 170, I wanted to be able to eat. I had never wrestled before. It was my first year. I wanted to be able to eat. I didn't want to have to worry about my weight. So I said, I'm going to go 182, and I did. And, there was one duel I specifically remember. I went in, got on that scale and weighed 168 pounds, and the kid I wrestled weighed 181.9. It was a tough day because with heavyweights they're a little more used to it because they have to be. You may weigh 240 pounds, but your kid is 283. But at a weight class like 182, it's a lot harder because, a lot of them are much more lean, and it's just tough because, you're giving up basically 12 pounds, and it was never the smartest idea.
Well, and we see Central win that one, and now we're starting the next weight class here for Central and Centennial. Central will be battling the Tigers next.
And one thing I do know is the Centennial wrestler out there right now, his father is the coach of the kids club wrestling team.
Oh, okay.
For Urbana.
And who would that be?
I believe his name is Coach Nate. I never wrestled as a kid, but I know a couple guys on our team who wrestled for him.
Okay, so did you start wrestling then your freshman year?
Mm-hmm. I won one match as a freshman. It was a rough year. I ended up winning most dedicated, though, because I was there for everything. I missed one practice right before sectionals after my season had ended because I was sick. And then my sophomore year, I ended up winning that award again. The only difference was I wrestled varsity. I had a winning record and was a fresh soft state qualifier. But I went to a camp with the team. I was in the wrestling room every chance I got. I fell in love with it after about a week. The first week was grueling, and I was miserable, but after about a week I loved it. And at least I know with us, we most of our quitters, the first test is the first week. If you last past the first week and you're a first year person, I can't even really say that. Anyone in general, there's one other test, and it is winter break. So after tonight, we're all off for about a week, and then we come back in. So I know a lot of guys, they'll go out of town. Just like I plan on going to Chicago, spend Christmas with some of my family up there. But a lot of kids they won't show up at all over winter break, and then you don't see them come back. You never really see them after that. You run into them in the halls, and kind of ask them where they've been, and some of them will respond, just be like, it wasn't really for me, and some of them will just kind of blow you off. And
well, they must have really enjoyed the break, I guess, and didn't want to come back to the work.
It's
I can relate to that.
Yeah. Coming in over break, it's rough because, at least in my case, I was getting up at like 7:30, getting here at like 7:45, and I'm still half asleep having to wrestle until like 10 because we started about 8 o'clock. And I mean, if you need to miss a practice, obviously the coaches understand. You just have to let them know. So I know there are a couple guys that, the day we're supposed to get back from our break have already talked to coach, and we know they won't be there, but they're still going to be out with their family.
Well, Michael, I see kind of both referees have come over and are looking at this same match. How does that kind of work?
So one of them is more so kind of keeping track of the clock, and the other one's just trying to focus on what's actually happening.
Okay.
It's fairly common once one duel is over, if the other one's still going on. So that way, you can have one ref just kind of keeping track of how long they got, and then you got the other ref, telling you, keeping track of the points and all that. And it makes it so, one ref doesn't have to do both.
Yeah, it makes the job a little bit easier and gives the ref something to do as well rather than sitting around and waiting for the next one.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, it's never, the funnest thing in the world sitting around. It's always nice when you get that little break, but just, sitting around not doing anything really, it gets boring after a bit.
So 16 seconds left here in the second period, and Central is up 7-1. And as a wrestler, looking at the score at 7-1, are you worrying at all about the score at this point, or are you just focusing on continuing your game plan, going for the pin, trying to rack up points? Is there a strategy in that sense?
I think it all depends on who the person is. So I know, like in my situation, I just kind of, I want to go out there and not give up. As I brought up my freshman year a lot, I got pinned a lot, and it was a rough go around. But it got to a point where I wouldn't even worry about what the score was. I just wanted to go out there and not get pinned, and that really helped once I got into those matches, where I'm down bad and I just want the match to be over. So then I can sit down and think, well, at least I'm not getting pinned. I know there are some people that they get into desperation mode, and they're just trying to get whatever they can. Maybe try to pin them. A lot of people will like to try to headlock you and throw you straight to your back, especially once like that third period comes around, because you're both tired. You don't want to have to fight that off, but.
Yeah, and, we're in the third period now with just a minute 18 left, and Central up. Well, they just got a couple more points there, so Central up 10-5 now over Centennial.
That is the wrong score. I don't think that's the right score.
Okay.
I think it should be like 5-8, although I might be wrong. At least it looked like it was.
Well, they've got 12-5 now on the scoreboard. Could be 10-5 by your count, but either way, Central's on top, which is 46 seconds left here in the third period. If you're Centennial, what are you trying to do at this point?
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, you want to try to work for that pin, but also, just go out there and keep fighting, that way, that kid will remember, that guy would not give it to me easy, and he's not going to want to wrestle you again. Because a lot of people remember, like, if you give them a tough match. I've been tech falled once in my high school career as a freshman, and I came back and beat the kid, and he fully told me, he said, I didn't want to wrestle you again. I've had kids that, I was so used to at that point, just everyone laying down and dying, and you kept going, and that I wasn't used to that.
So Central wins that one as well. So they've won at least the couple that we've seen. We appreciate you tuning in, whether that's live on the NFHS network or watching later on Urbana Public Television, Comcast Channel 6, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, i3 Broadband Channel 6, or streaming online at urbanapublictelevision.org. Our video is also made available on demand on our YouTube channel. You can find our YouTube channel at UPTV6 or by going to our website, urbanapublictelevision.org. Jason Liggett and Urbana High School senior wrestler Michael Monreal here at Oscar Adams Gymnasium on the campus of Urbana High School. The dual meet between the Champaign Central Maroons, the Champaign Centennial Chargers, the Sabers of St. Thomas More, and your Urbana High School Tigers. We saw the 138 match between Urbana and St. Thomas More, the only match and weight class that they had, and St. Thomas More winning that one by pin gets the team 6 points. Will Brown competing for the Urbana Tigers at 138.
And just there was a forfeit, which is, so that means the other team did not have a person for him to wrestle, so he goes out there, gets his hand raised, and that's basically worth a pin.
And that was Central that was awarded?
Yep.
Correct.
And
yeah.
There's another one.
There's another one. They've got quite a few wrestlers out at Champaign Central, it looks like.
Last year they were, from what I remember last year, they were smaller. But it can vary from year to year. I know before I got here we had a decent-sized team, and then, I come here and it's incredibly small. We're giving up all sorts of forfeits. But, it's not that big of a deal. Most people don't really look at the dual scores when they talk to you about it. They more so ask how, who so-and-so and how they did and how you did. But there are the select few that somehow, think to ask about the dual scores. And some may understand, we give up a lot of forfeits, some may not. And I remember my sophomore year, we basically would walk into a duel. If they had a full team, we were starting 38 points in the hole.
Well, when you kind of start 38 points in the hole, I think it kind of becomes an individual venture,
yeah.
At a certain point, shortly after that, if not at the time.
Right, because, even if you pin out, depending on how many people you have, I'm not sure the likelihood is that you come back.
So Centennial up early here in the first period, a minute left, 2-0. These wrestlers obviously the same weight class, but looking their body types a little bit different. Centennial a little bit shorter and stockier, and the central wrestler, longer legs, a little bit lankier. Does that kind of interpret into different wrestling styles or how they use their bodies on the mat?
It definitely can. So like I've had guys that I'm a little on the bigger side, but I've had guys go out there, huge six pack, chiseled, look like they're going to be a beast, but they might not be. And the thing is, you just can't really worry about oh, this other guy looks really strong. You just kind of got to go out there and wrestle, and whatever happens, happens. If you lose, you got to get past it. If you win, that's great.
And you see Centennial wins that one with the pin. 19 seconds remaining in the first period, so they'll get 6 for that pin. And really not a lot of forfeits over here. They seem like they have pretty much somebody in most weight classes between the Chargers and the Maroons.
Yeah, they just, last year neither of them had, huge teams. I believe Centennial just barely filled out their dual team lineup, and Central was short a couple guys, but I mean this year they seem pretty stacked.
Now, is there a different schedule in practice as far as if you have a meet on a certain day, maybe you have a light practice the day before, or you do cardio one day, or is it just all technique? And
so with us at least, we'll do, it'll be, if it's like a tournament normally, we'll do about an hour and a half long practice as opposed to a 2-hour practice, and you keep moving, you keep wrestling, you don't stop, and that's more so to help guys that need a drop in weight. You get to leave practice early and just kind of help you get a little bit more time to recover and relax for the next day.
It looks like we might have had an injury here. And that'll be it for that one.
Match.
And in that situation, is that awarded as a pin? Is it?
I believe so.
Yeah, I would almost, not to take away anything from the Centennial wrestler, of course, but almost in a forfeit situation because they can't continue on.
Right. Which, I mean, obviously, I believe I have had one match where the kid got hurt and couldn't continue. But besides that, I've had kids that have had to stop for a minute, get it right, and then they were fine and they kept going. But
well, it's good to see Centennial's wrestler able to walk off on his own.
Oh yeah, definitely. You don't ever want to see anyone get hurt. I mean, I remember even at the preview last year wrestling a guy who was a first-year senior or maybe a second year, but he wrestled at his old school. He his headgear was way too tight, and I was pinning him. And what I didn't know was he couldn't breathe. And when I got up, he was just kind of, he was hyperventilating. I remember I started freaking out because you get a little worried, even though they're your opponent, you still got respect for them because, they're also someone that does the same thing you do. And not a lot of people can say that.
2-1 here early on in the first period, minute 8 remaining. Central on top. And Centennial gets awarded 2 points there, so it's a 3-2 score. Now, Michael, at a dual meet like this, you know, you're facing multiple schools. Is it ever the scenario where at the 182 pounder, let's say you have multiple wrestlers, so maybe against Central you'll wrestle one wrestler and then against St. Thomas More you'll wrestle another? Or do you just keep the same wrestler throughout?
Normally, yeah. So we have a pretty set varsity lineup. I mean, if there's multiple guys in a weight class and one guy decides, hey, I want that spot, they can challenge them for it, every week if they want until they finally win. And then the other guy can challenge them for it. It's just, it's really a lot of a matter if you really want to. I know, say one guy goes down and he has a guy behind him, they'll throw the other guy out there. But if the other guy's fine and able to wrestle, they'll keep him going. Normally, if there's multiple guys at multiple weight classes, they'll try to get them a JV match. Just get out there and get mat time normally against a kid who's about the same experience level as them, maybe a little more or less depending on, where you're at and where he's at.
And Michael, I know you mentioned changing weight classes between years. You start off maybe your sophomore year at 170, but then by your junior year, you're wrestling 182. Do you ever see a switch like that during the course of the season?
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's more so guys coming down. So a lot of guys they'll come in and they might weigh 160 pounds and they decide they want to go 152, they'll just cut down to 152 whenever the IHSA allows it, because you do have requirements for weight cutting. There are specific dates that the IHSA will let you come down and will not let you come down. So it's what they consider to be, a healthy amount of time to lose the weight. They don't want, how people perceive it as guys running around in trash bags losing 10 pounds in a day. Because, they want it to be safer than that.
And Centennial able to get the pin there. And Centennial wins that one.
Where are they at now? I'm unsure which weight class they're at.
I've been trying to guess the whole time, Michael, and if you can't guess, I definitely can't guess it.
Once we get to the 220 heavyweight range, I'll know that for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
But before that, I'll be a little unsure about it. Which I knew, I believe, two people from Centennial's team last year. One of them, who's a senior now, just decided, he started as a sophomore, just decided, you know what, I'd rather, go start working, and just decided I'm not going to wrestle this year. And the other one graduated, so.
I'm going to guess this out here now might be the 182? Or is it 170?
I think this might be a 60-pounder match.
Oh, okay. All right. As I said, you'll probably know better than I.
Just because those other two kids looked a little too skinny to me to be 70s or 60s. 52s I could see, but after that I couldn't really see.
I'm talking about the one on the mat now. You're talking about, okay.
The ones before that, they looked like 52-pounders to me.
Gotcha. In the course of the wrestling season, is it similar to basketball, to where your first meets are kind of in November, December, and then it's going to run through February with state in March?
Yep. Well, no. So the one difference would be if you're a junior or senior, the latest your season will go into is February when the state tournament happens. As a freshman or sophomore, it could go into March because, my sophomore year when I went to Fresh Off State, I believe 4 days before my birthday, the season finally ended. My birthday is March 30th, so it went late into March. But, being, a junior or senior, your season could end at regionals, or, you maybe go to sectionals and that's where it ends, or you become a state qualifier. But the latest it'll go into is February for any upperclassman or any freshman or sophomore that qualifies for state. As part of the rules for Fresh Off are that if you qualify for regular, IHSA state, you cannot be a part of Fresh Off.
And Central up 13-3 here as we enter the second period.
Make that 15-3.
And the Maroons get the pin.
I know in also in certain situations, a lot of things that might happen is, a coach has a kid that maybe is in, a far much lesser experience of another kid, and they just say, I'm too worried, what if my kid gets hurt, and they don't put him out there. They just give the other kid a forfeit, which I remember AJ ran into that problem a lot last year. He had guys that, we'd come to duels and they wouldn't really, throw anyone out there. They were too nervous, because, he's such a big guy. He looks intimidating. And, a lot of those kids didn't really get to know AJ and, understand, he's a pretty nice guy, didn't really want to hurt anyone. But I knew it definitely frustrated him not being able to get as many matches in as he wanted.
Looks like a lot of speed on both of these wrestlers, whereas the last match we saw a little more strength-oriented.
So, I mean, it really depends on it. So, like, some guys, their thing they got to do is they got to be quick with it. They got to hit their moves slick. Some guys, they'll just muscle you. I've seen guys get incredibly far in the sport, get, to placing matches of finals of state, placing matches in state, and, they didn't really have very much technique. They were just really, really strong and could muscle you over.
Centennial up 2-0 here. 20 seconds left in the first period. Oscar Adams Gymnasium. Jason Liggett joined by Urbana High School senior wrestler Michael Monreal. We appreciate having Michael's expertise here tonight.
A lot of times, though, you know, with something like stalling is another big thing that, you know, it's really up to the ref. So they'll kind of give you 2 warnings beforehand, even though you really only get 1 actual warning. He'll start telling you, you know, you need to move, you need to work something. Then he'll do the first one where he'll put his hand up, the closed fist, and, you know, warning. And, you know, if you do it again, then you give up a point. Which, I mean, that's cost people matches before. Just, you know, guys, you know, start backing up, trying to get the time to run out. Which, I mean, I remember one match where I was up by 5 points, about 5 seconds left. I just let the kid up and backed up, and he gave him the point for the stand-up, and he gave him a stall point because I got my warning in the second when the ref didn't feel I was doing a good enough job of trying to break him down and pin him.
All right. And when you slam someone down like that, is there any extra points awarded or anything, or it's just
that's
just a takedown?
That's not even worth points depending on the situation. So,
okay.
If you were already on top of him and he stands up and you put him back to the mat, that's not points. Unless you get a takedown off of that, like if you duck under and do a takedown from there. Well, if you get that from a duck under, you really don't score from that. The only scoring you really see off of that is, at least in my situation, a guy will forget to let go of one of his arms, and the ref will stop you and give the other kid a point if you even pick him up and one of his arms is trapped. Because that my freshman year they didn't mind, but they felt it was too dangerous, and they just didn't want to risk, you know, kids' shoulders getting torn up and someone getting hurt. So it's now a point to the other side. And also something I didn't think to explain was so at the end of a period, either the guy who is red or green will get a choice if you want to go down and try to stand up, if you want to go top and try to break him down, if you want to go back on your feet and try to take him down, or you can defer it to the other guy, which in practice a lot I'll always defer, even though in most of my matches I'll just take bottom. But someone like AJ, whenever he got choice second period, it was always defer, because he felt, you know, then in the third period I can stand up, get a point, take him down, get 2 points, and, you know, you got 3 points at the beginning of the third period right there.
(11-2) right now in favor of the Chargers.
It's about to be 14-2 with the back points. A lot of times refs, when he feels you're still working something and feels you still have a chance to get more back points, will wait a second and just kind of hold it there, and then they'll give you the back points. Then, you know, you can take them back and count the back points again. In that situation, I think he just wanted to get some extra backs out of it and then go and pin him.
And that's exactly what he did, as Centennial wins that one by pin.
That's the 82 match. I finally was able to hear the ref. That's the 82 match.
That's coming up right now, or the
Yep,
okay.
the one that's up right now. You can hear him. A lot of times the ref will call out for the weight class. So I was finally able to get able to hear what he was saying. So that's the 82 class, which I've only spoken to the Centennial 82 a few times. I can't really remember his name, but he's a pretty decent wrestler. I believe senior this year.
And we mentioned that this was the weight class that AJ Fox competed in last year. Is
Yep.
there a 82 for Urbana this year?
Trayton Woods. He's a junior, although he, I believe, wants to drop down to 82 or to 70. And Jeremy Macharo, our 195 pounder, has talked about going 182. Just to try to fill out some more spots on the lineup.
Centennial gets a quick pin there. So they're awarded another 6.
It's kind of funny. This duel in the lighter weight classes started off more in Central's favor, but Centennial is looking like it seems like they've made a pretty decent comeback so far, trying to get themselves back in this duel.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't been scoring it, but you're exactly right. Early on, the lighter weight classes, it seemed like all Central, and they had a couple of forfeits go in their favor, which certainly helped out scoring-wise for the team. But Centennial in these last few matches has come up with some wins.
And for anyone who sees this and doesn't understand, why when it seems like he's at the guy's side, the ref doesn't give him the 2, you have to really get behind his hips to get it. Or like if you have control of like maybe his ankle and wrist, then a ref might give it to you. But if you just go out there and all you do is, you get to his side and you don't really do anything from there, they normally won't give you the 2.
So now, is this the 220 or the 195 since we just had the 182?
Yep. This would be 95. After this would be 20, and then would be at heavyweight.
And there's Centennial with another pin. So getting closer to the end of Centennial and Central here. Urbana is going to square off against Central next, and then Centennial third. So Centennial will be against St. Thomas More next. For those of you keeping score at home, part of our dual meet here between the Chargers of Centennial, the St. Thomas More Sabers, the Champaign Central Maroons, and your Urbana Tigers. We're here at Oscar Adams Gymnasium. Jason Liggett alongside Urbana High School senior wrestler Michael Monreal.
And wrestling, you tend to get pretty close with your teammates. I mean, we have guys, graduated 5-6 years ago, still come in and help. It becomes your family at some point. For some people, it may not hit them. How close they were with their team really until, maybe their senior year is over. With me, I kind of started to realize it as about halfway through my freshman year. I kind of realized these guys are like my family. And took time to really get to know them better. Just kind of know who you're with and know who's doing it with you. Who's out there wrestling with you every day and competing. It's always nice when you got, guys that are going to be there, so you can rely on that. So, I mean there are people that, like, they'll, but not only telling the coach, they'll tell certain people, to be like, yeah, I'm not going to be at practice, just so, they're not confused. So, like, if it's the guy they practice with on a regular basis, they'll tell them, like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to make it in today. Something came up and I just can't make it in. What's not fun is when when either something comes up and you can't make it and don't tell Coach Sabers, or you just take it amongst yourself that you're going to take a day off. It's not fun. You're gonna be running for a while.
Not a good idea then,
yeah,
huh?
Definitely not. That or you're going to be throwing the dummy around, which that's not much fun either. The dummies are it's tiring. And I mean there are points where, like, I remember one guy, I believe, had to do, like, just because he had missed so much time, and they were so mad at him for missing a lot of time. When he finally came back in, he had to do 100 dummy throws for every day he missed. And he missed, like, 2 weeks. He ended up quitting. He didn't finish his dummy throws during practice. They're like, all right, you got to finish the rest of them tomorrow. And he had lost count. So he's like, well, I guess you got to start over. Because he didn't keep count of what he was at. And he never came back.
So a very tough sport. That's what I'm learning here, Michael.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely rough. I mean, it's great as long as you do what you're supposed to, and you're not skipping out on practice and all that kind of stuff. If you just do what you're supposed to, you're always at practice. It's great. You don't have to deal with stuff like that.
I'm not sure if all of our viewing audience really thinks of wrestling as a classic, viewing sport, a spectator sport, but there is quite a crowd on hand today.
Oh, yeah, especially with it being Twin City. There are some duels where, you may only have 10, 15 people in the gym, and then some where, it's a decent amount of people. And, especially when you get into tournaments, that's when, you're sitting in a full gym. A bunch of people just sitting there watching.
And Centennial gets another pin there at 220, and now we're on to heavyweight.
Yep. Which I do remember the Central wrestler out there. I believe he's a junior now. My sophomore year, he was a 195-pounder, and I wrestled him. We wrestled twice. Once at a tournament in Muhammad, I ended up winning by a pin, and then I beat him 9-3 at regionals sophomore year. But he's a fighter. That's one thing I will give to him. He fights hard. He just doesn't give it up. I think that's him right there, yeah.
And Centennial gets another pin there. So Centennial dominated the heavier weight classes here over Champaign Central.
Even though Central, with the hot start to the little guys. And in most of the years I've been here, that's been Urbana's big thing is like we'll have maybe 4 or 5 guys in, at 160, but, we can't find a 106 pounder no matter how hard we try. So with the conclusion of that, it will be Urbana versus Central, and Centennial will wrestle St. Thomas More. They're giving them, I believe, like 5 minutes, just kind of get ready, let everyone get their minds right, especially since each of these teams, you got guys that just wrestled, and they might be up fairly quickly since Urbana and STM may not have, the numbers that they do.
Yeah, very true. We'll probably see quite a bit of forfeits on both mats here.
Oh, yeah.
This go-around since Urbana, and next go-around, to be honest, because then Urbana will be against Centennial. So we're going to see Urbana and the Champaign Central Maroons. And on the other mat, which we won't be watching quite as closely, will be the Centennial Chargers and the Sabers of St. Thomas More. Very cool for this duel that they get all the high schools in Champaign-Urbana involved.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It alternates every year where it is. So my freshman year was at St. Thomas More, so that's where it's going to be next year. Sophomore year it was at Centennial. My junior year last year it was at Central, and this year we got it. It's always a lot of fun, especially because, a lot of people, they'll go out there and wrestle someone they know, like personally. They might end up wrestling one of their friends. I mean, it's a lot like when we play them in football, a decent chunk of people on the team. Centennial is about to go through with their senior night festivities.
That's right, and you were mentioning this before we went on the air here, that Centennial only had one home meet, so they decided to do the senior night for the Champaign Centennial Chargers here tonight.
Yeah, they just, I believe it was they just kind of forgot.
So that was senior Lavelle Fleming on the mat right now being honored for the Centennial Chargers. And then followed by Dantes Roberson. So somewhat uncommon to have senior night on the road, but since Champaign-Urbana all one community, certainly an ideal time to have it if you do have to have it on the road. Senior night, a very proud memory for many of these high school athletes, including the high school wrestlers being honored here tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, most people, they view senior night, it's really special, your parents come out, you get recognized for all your hard work. And, it's always really nice to get that recognition.
And Cameron Nesbitt, another senior on the wrestling team. coming out to the mat with his brother and his mom.
Cam plans to study architecture and Western College. Cam is a second-year captain.
I think we have
Finally, we have
one more.
Trey Walker. Trey is being escorted. Escorted by Coach Archie. Trey just started wrestling this year as a senior. His favorite wrestling memory?
First-year wrestler here, but a senior nonetheless, Trey Walker. He's being escorted by Coach Archie. So 4 seniors honored here tonight for the Centennial Chargers. Trey Walker, Dantes Roberson, Cameron Nesbitt, and Lavelle Fleming. Congratulations to the Champaign Centennial Chargers. Their senior class being honored here at Oscar Adams Gymnasium.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's also partly a respect factor, as you know. Obviously, these coaches, they know each other pretty well. They all get along pretty good, you know. You just kind of look at them like, you know, yeah, it's a little weird. You kind of forgot about your senior night, but you can have it here. It's not the biggest deal in the world. You know, I just feel like they view it as like it wouldn't really be right for Centennial to not get a senior night.
Well, and I imagine like in many of the other sports, senior night kind of brings out some memories for the Charger wrestlers and kind of gives them an added oomph to where they won a victory here tonight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, speaking from, so I've had one so far with football, and it's kind of weird because, you know, you watch the other seniors that you played with, you know, walk out there, and you think like, oh, I have a lot of time before, you know, before I'm in that situation, and it just flies by you. I mean, it really got put in perspective for me when I kind of realized we only have about a month left for our juniors and seniors if they don't make it past regionals. Considering, you know, December is almost over, and the following weekend after the Super Bowl, I believe, is state week. So right before that would be when, you know, regionals, sectionals, and all that happens. And it's always fun to watch guys, you know, balloon up a little bit and gain like 5-6 pounds from a Super Bowl party, you know, come back and, you know, they, you know, end up dropping, you know, 3 pounds in a day, not even trying that hard, especially, you know, with someone like AJ came in, I believe, like 8 pounds overweight right before state as a senior because of the Super Bowl, and ends up being like 4 pounds under.
It's a lot of pizza and wings or whatever he was out at that Super Bowl party. I guess it's a terrible time to have the wrestling season, right? You'd almost rather have it in the summer because, you know, you're not, you don't have Thanksgiving and the holidays and the Super Bowl and everything else.
Like, I know people that, I know one guy who said just because he knew he'd end up eating a whole lot. One of my Uncle Tony's old wrestling friends from high school, who my Uncle Tony was also a wrestler, he said his entire high school years, he never went to a single Super Bowl party because he knew he'd gain a bunch of weight until he was a senior and went heavyweight. And then he said, you know what, I'll go to a Super Bowl party because I weigh 260 pounds and, you know, I have 25 pounds to work with.
And I'm hoping he didn't gain all those 25 pounds, right?
Gained about 7 of them. Which, I mean, Super Bowl, I didn't go to a Super Bowl party, but I ended up going over to my girlfriend's house to watch it with her dad, and he made a whole bunch of food. It was, I had to restrain myself. But it was a lot easier considering how exciting last year's Super Bowl was,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, things like, Nick Foles catching a touchdown pass and all that. It was a lot easier to not think about food. There's the thing is, though, there's really only 2 weight classes that you most of the time don't have to worry as much about what you're weighing. And that's really 220 if you're weighing like 205 to 210, or if you're a heavyweight and you don't weigh like 183 pounds. Yeah, that's when you can eat what you want and it doesn't really matter. Unless you're, who I brought up a couple of times, AJ, who had an incredible metabolism and, burned everything off in an hour just by sitting in a room with a heater.
Most people aren't that lucky.
Oh, yeah. I remember I told him, I said, AJ, I'll pay you for your metabolism. It's ridiculous. I'd never have to run again. I could just, sit in front of a space heater and watch TV and not have to worry about making weight.
There you go. That's a nice diet and training plan.
Oh, yeah.
Watch TV and get hot.
Oh, yeah. Which, I mean, even when people are trying to make weight, what they'll do is they'll put on a bunch of layers. They'll run. If you're only a few ounces over, like say you're a 160 and you weigh 160.2, you have to make 160 flat. But most of them, they'll just find an empty bottle and spit in it until weigh-ins, and they'll be fine.
And was that a forfeit right there?
Yep. It's going to be...
There'll be several of them here, I assume.
Yep. We're going from, I believe, 106 to 132 with Will.
138 with Will?
138,
right?
Yep. I didn't think about that. He was a 132 freshman and sophomore year. Well, his freshman and sophomore year, so I just got used to him being a 32.
And these all counts as pins. They get awarded 6 points for the Maroons.
Right, and I mean... this is kind of one of those duels where, Coach Chaberis will send them out there and, oh, no, I forgot we do have a 132 sophomore Darnell. He's a first-year wrestler, but he goes out there and he wrestles tough. He never gives anything up easy. A lot of people have called him Juice WRLD because of his hair and because that's, like, the only person he listens to. But I don't think he minds too much.
I'm sorry, what's the nickname?
Juice WRLD, like the rapper.
Okay. I'll pretend like I know who that is.
At least I know I call him that. I think a few others do as well. Ooh, that's a tough position. So that's what you call boots. When he's got the legs in, that's always real tough to get out of, especially when he's got doubles. If it's only one, it's much easier to get out of. But if it's two, it's a lot harder.
You mentioned he's a first-year wrestler. Is that at the high school level or just in general?
Just in general.
Just in general.
Didn't wrestle last year, but decided this year, I'm going to come in and I'm going to wrestle. And he's one of two first-year sophomores we have on the team, one who The other will be wrestling a little bit later. I'll bring him up when he comes around. I know we have Darnell right now, and after this should be Will, but I'm not sure our situation at 45 is we have 3 145-pounders, but 2 of them had to miss practice recently, so. But I won't say who it is until I know for sure once they get out there.
Well, we're seeing Champaign Central Maroons up 18-0 here.
Oh yeah, I mean
going on a little bit of a scoring run.
Well, that's the team scores. The score to the match itself is 7-0. So,
okay, now I see how they're doing that here. We've been looking at that one for so long that I got.
Yeah, it's a little odd. You gotta get used to looking back and forth and seeing which is which.
Two more for the Maroons as they're up 9-0 here in this match. 1:45 left in the second period. Jason Liggett joined by Urbana High School senior wrestler Michael Monreal at Oscar Adams Gymnasium, campus of Urbana High School, during this dual meet between the St. Thomas More Sabers and Centennial Chargers, currently wrestling on the other mat. And what we're watching here is the Central Maroons and your Urbana Tigers on mat number 2, correct?
No,
this is one.
This is 1.
Okay.
The gray mat is mat number 2. It gets a little confusing, especially at like tournaments where you got.
Well, Coach Sabers did a very good job of explaining at the start. I was writing down a lot of stuff, and I wrote down both mat number 1 and mat number 2, but didn't identify them clearly enough for my notes, I guess.
Yeah, in tournament situations, you got, there are some situations where you got 5 mats that are out, and, there's some with 6. There's a tournament we go to every year that has 6 out, and you got to really listen so you know where you're at, so they'll have their wrestling room is like sandwiched right in between the big gym and small gym, and at a tournament we go to in Lincoln, so they'll have 4 mats out in the big gym and then 2 out in the smaller one. So that'll be another 6 to Central.
Yeah, Central gets the pin there over Urbana. Good effort from first-year wrestler Darnell Chapman. Also known as, what was the rapper?
World. Juice World.
Juice World?
That's what I call him.
Okay, I'm gonna have to YouTube some Juice World later.
I believe. Oh, maybe Will is not wrestling. I don't know if he got hurt or something after his match or what happened, but I'm not even seeing him. So our 45 is going to be Latrice Miller. So she's in the same weight class as John Ball, who we all call Kevin, because there were 2 Johns on the team last year, and it was kind of hard to keep track of who was who. And first-year senior Sebastian Diego, who had to miss practice because he was sick. Latrice is a second-year wrestler. She's a junior. Well, she said she wrestled for her school she went to up in Chicago as a freshman. So this would technically be her 3rd year, and she's a junior, but her 2nd year at Urbana.
Maroons up 2-0 here over Latrice. Halfway through the first period.
Yeah, and she's always also been a real big fighter. She won't give anything up easy. She'll make you work for it, and it's going to be, even if you win the match, you're going to be tired at the end of it. It's not like some matches I've seen where a guy will go out there and wrestle someone, and they get off the mat and they're not breathing hard, they're not tired, nothing. And that's a technical point violation against Central. So a lot of people will get caught up trying to put a half Nelson in, which is where you stick your arm underneath theirs, kind of grab around the head area and drive them onto their back. Some people will accidentally put a full Nelson in, and that is actually illegal in folk style. In freestyle, I believe you can do it. And there is a stall warning, so that's the first warning. And stalling, it'll happen in certain situations. A lot of times, a ref will want you to circle when you're moving, like try to circle around and not just like walk forward and backward. If you're like walking backward for a long period of time, or like more than like 3 times, depending on who the ref is, they'll give you a warning, and then if you do it again, they'll just dock you.
And that was a stall warning on
Latrice, and just
Latrice, okay.
there was the stall point because he felt she wasn't, doing anything to get up. So that's another point for Central to tack on with 2 back points as well. And I know a lot of people in a match where, you're down, 10-0. Some people have flat out told me, I just try to make it look like I'm doing something so, my coach won't get mad at me once I get pinned. There are people that, will go out there and try to make something out of it. I believe that was another stall called on Latrice, and if it happens a 3rd time, then I believe that's when the opponent is awarded 2 points for the stall.
Well, Central up here 11-1 as we start the 3rd period.
And I think at this point, Central's just kind of looking to get the last 2 points and trying to tech fall here.
And you have to get to 15 to tech fall, or you have to be up by?
You have to be up by 15 or more. So
15 or more, okay.
Like say a score is 14-15. They won't call that because they'll be like, no, this match is too close. So right there, that was a tech fall with the final of, I believe, 17-2. They just haven't changed it yet, so it still says 15-2. And yep, is it who I think it is? Yep. And up now for the Tigers is Amin Hill. He is a sophomore, first-year wrestler. You know, seems pretty eager to learn a lot. Just still a little inexperienced when it comes to everything.
And Amin fighting it off right here as the Maroons up 2-0, trying to flip Amin over on his back here and go for the pin.
And that'll be the match.
Yep, the Maroons get you right there. And when you're down on the mat like that, is there any specific strategy, or you're trying to grab a leg, or you're trying to just flip over? What are you trying to do if you're Amin right there?
What I would do in that situation is you try to bridge. So what that is basically you get up on your head, so that way your shoulders are not down. And so 52.
This is a one.
Yep, that was a 60, and then they got the 70 forfeit, and then we'll be at Trayton Woods with 82.
And Trayton, a junior, correct?
Yep. He's been wrestling since, I believe he told me, I think the 4th grade. Took last year off, just, needed a little bit of time, which that's understandable. Some people, they just need a little bit of time off. And he said, I'm going to take sophomore year off, but then junior year I'll be back. And he's done really good so far. I feel like that break really helped him.
Champaign Central up 2-0 right now. Just a minute left here in the first period.
Yeah, but I've seen crazier comebacks from Trayton. As a freshman, he was down, I believe 11-0, and then came back and won by points. It wasn't like he came back and pinned the kid. He won 13-11. So it's still 2-0, but there's still plenty of time, and I believe Oh, I wasn't sure if Trey got the choice and deferred or if Centennial got it, but or if Central got it. But Central will start down.
And that's something that the wrestler chooses just based on, you know, what their situation might be, what their skill set might be, and who they're wrestling.
Oh yeah. So I mean, you know, I've had matches where I had one match in my entire career where I think my coach was going to tell me to take neutral, but I ended up taking top just because I was getting them to their back and the time just ran out. So before he could even say anything, I pointed up like when it was my choice and I ended up pinning them. And so now both wrestlers have gotten a stall warning as the ref felt like they weren't, you know, maybe doing enough and could have been doing a little more.
Well, since we just saw a situation where both wrestlers can get a stall warning, I assume there's the same situation can be awarded in points as well.
Oh, yeah. So now that they both have a warning, if the ref feels they're stalling again, then that's just a point the other way. So right here, say, you know, for the next 15 seconds, the central wrestler just kind of sits there and does nothing, then, you know, the ref might, you know, call him for stalling, say, you know, you're not really doing anything, and give Trayton a point. I know another big thing is they don't want you, you know, when you are behind a guy trying to mat return him, they don't want you standing back there a super long time trying to get him down. So you have a bit of a limit, I believe. After about 5 seconds, they'll give you the warning, or if you've already gotten your warning, you might get hit for it. And it'll be 5-2 heading into the third. And Trey is now only down by a point, so if he gets some backs right here or maybe gets a stall on the other side, then it will be all tied up. Well, if he gets some backs, then he'll have the lead. And it's tied up now after a stall against Central.
And here you can see the Maroons trying to bridge, as you suggested what you would do before if you were in that situation.
Definitely.
Didn't work out that time for the Maroons. As
it doesn't
Tigers
always
get the
work
pin.
out. It doesn't always work out. It really depends on the situation. Now coming out is one of our three captains, me, Luke, and our 195-pounder senior, Jeremy Macharo. This is Jeremy's technically third year, as his freshman year. I was there when we were, I don't even remember exactly what we were doing, but he ended up breaking his collarbone.
Oh, wow.
And ended up having to miss all of the entirety of his freshman year. But, I mean, came in his sophomore year, did pretty good. Went to Fresh Off State as well as me. And, you know, now as a senior, me, him, and Luke Luffman have become the captains of the team. Jeremy's one of the big things with him is he's very, very strong. So he is also a mechanic. So I mean he's working all the time and he's incredibly strong. I mean even just today he'll get a workout in whenever he can. Just today, me and him went, since Huff Hall where the U of I practices is open. As long as the U of I isn't practicing, they leave the doors unlocked. And, if you want to go in there and wrestle, you can. And Jeremy with a quick pin. I mean, he called me last night and said, "Hey, let's go to Huff in the morning and get a workout in." I said, "All right, let's go."
I didn't realize that was the case with Huff Hall. So it's just open to local high schools or I suppose anyone else who's wanting to wrestle.
Yep. I mean, obviously you got to leave once the team gets there. And now coming out at 220 is a freshman, Andre Hunt. He's also been wrestling for a while. Pretty good wrestler. He real tall and lanky. He especially when I wrestle him in practice, he loves to use that to his advantage because it's a little harder to get to those tall, lanky kids.
Let's see if Urbana can kind of keep the momentum going here. Amin Hill got the pin at 152. Jeremy Macharo at 95. Oh, he got pinned. Sorry.
You're fine.
Who got the other 6 points for the Tigers?
Trayton.
Okay, yes, Trayton. And you say Andre is a freshman this year? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Freshman, but he goes out there and he understands. It's a little rougher as when he's wrestling guys that may have a little more muscle to him. I don't think it hit him at first how different truly high school and kids club really are. They are, completely different. And he gets the 2 right there.
And when you say kids club, is that all the way through 8th grade?
Yes. So after 8th grade, then you're not doing kids club anymore. Then you're doing high school, which I'm not sure which grade you can start, but
I assume they start them pretty young.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you can come in, say your 7th grade year, you just decide you want to wrestle, you can. Andre's leading 7-0 here after a quick takedown and some back points. And that'll be another 2, so it'll be 9-0. And after this, I'm not sure if he'll have a match. I think he will be Luke Luffman. He's also at duels run into the same problem that AJ had, where a coach just won't throw the guy out there.
You mean the other team's coach won't throw him out against Luffman?
Yep. Oh nope. He's getting a match.
I want to say it was 2 seasons ago where Monticello had someone in Luffman's weight class that actually defeated him here at Oscar Adams Gymnasium, and then I think they met again in the state tournament, and Luffman got the win that time.
Oh no, you're referring to Mattoon. It was Garrett Branson.
Yeah, there you go. Mattoon.
He beat him here, and then Luke came back, so he also beat him at sectionals off of what was kind of a bogus call. He kind of admitted afterwards, so it looked like Luke pushed him into the stands. He kind of admitted he flopped into the stands to get an extra point. Comes back the next year and beats him twice. And, you know.
So that was Luke's freshman year then?
Sophomore year.
Sophomore year, okay. Now, as we mentioned earlier, Luffman will be at the University of Illinois next year.
Yep.
He gets the pin right there. And he competed internationally over the summer, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I believe he took 7th at Worlds on the Greco team. You know, and he's been wrestling since, I believe he told me he was in 2nd grade when he started. It's just always been his thing. I remember I wrestled him a lot sophomore year in practice. We would just, and he taught me so much. Like, we'd be drilling, and he'd just stop in the middle of drill and be like, this is what you can do to fix this and this, and it really helped. You know, and you know, it's great when you have teammates that can do things like that, you know, are always willing to help. Like with football, I was going in, I was never really the best, but I always had Jeremy Macharo he was always there and helping. And, you know, we lived in the same neighborhood for a while. So, I mean, we'd go out there and run drills, and he's always been, you know, let's go work out and let's go do something. That's just kind of always been his personality. You know, if he can be out and doing something, he'll do it. Luke, you know, I think he really just wants to help people get better. Wants to see him, you know, improve and you know, be great.
So coming up next, we will see Urbana and Centennial square off against each other. And Champaign Central will be against St. Thomas More. And that will be what wraps things up for the evening, correct?
Yep, I believe so. I don't think there's anything left that they could have.
Is there a trophy or anything, like the Wright Street trophy that they give away for football or anything, or just bragging rights?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, all right.
I don't remember getting anything. Centennial getting anything sophomore year when they won it. It's always great, though, you know, when you, at least for the guys that go out there and win, because, you know, you even if team-wise you guys didn't win, you still get bragging rights. You know, unlike in football where, you know, you can be an offensive lineman just bulldozing over their defensive guys, you know, just destroying them, but, you know, your team loses by 30 points, you know, you don't really have the bragging rights that you should for, you know, bulldozing up to their secondary. Because, I mean, we've had our offensive line this year would play, you know, some great games, especially against Central. We had a really solid game throughout the whole O-line. but lost by like 30 points, and where maybe we could say something to the defensive linemen about how they weren't in the backfield. We can't really bring a lot up. If you look at like what was my junior year, Central never really bragged after that game, because I feel like even some of their players felt like we got cheated. For anyone that saw that game, the throw out of bounds that they called a 10-second runoff, instead of giving us the opportunity to run one more play. I had a Central kid tell me that was a bad call, and he said he was legitimately scared because their defense had a hard time stopping us all game, and we would have been on our own we would have been on their 2-yard line. And that's always the nicer thing about a more individualized sport like wrestling. Your team may lose the duel by 40 points, but you go out there and pin your kid in 10 seconds. You'll have some bragging rights over that kid.
Well, Michael, what's in store for you next year after you graduate this May?
I honestly couldn't say. I know. So I've got one main school that's really looking at me for football and one for wrestling. I've got. I might just stay home and go to Parkland, or I might move up by my dad near Chicago and go to a junior college up there.
Well, all good options. So no matter what you choose, I'm sure you'll be good.
Thank you. I know if I move up with my dad, I will most likely be attending Joliet Junior College, as he's out in the suburbs now. He moved out of the city a while ago. And he, my Uncle Tony knows the coach at the school there, so I'd at least get a chance to go and try out and maybe get a spot on the team. And I know they have a decent number of kids that after 2 years, you get maybe a D2 or even maybe a D1 scholarship.
For more information on Urbana High School athletic programs, you can visit their website, il.8to18.com/Urbana. You can also follow them on Twitter @AthleticsUrbana. Be sure to follow Urbana Public TV on Twitter. It's @Urbana Public TV. We appreciate you tuning in, whether you're watching live on the NFHS network. We'll also rebroadcast this on Urbana Public Television. You can watch it locally in Champaign-Urbana on Comcast Channel 6, AT&T UVerse Channel 99, i3 Broadband Channel 6, and streaming online worldwide at urbanapublictelevision.org. We'll also post this to UPTV's YouTube channel, youtube.com/UPTV6. It's also a link on our website at urbanapublictelevision.org. Jason Liggett joined by Urbana High School's senior wrestler Michael Monreal tonight at Oscar Adams Gymnasium on the campus of Urbana High School as we get ready for the holiday season here in Urbana. And today was the last day of the semester, right?
Yesterday.
Yesterday was,
Yesterday.
okay.
I got pretty lucky. I had a couple classes that we did projects instead of actual tests, so
those are always nice.
Oh yeah, so the first day of finals I didn't take a single test. The second day I stayed home for about the first 2 periods of the day because I had a study hall and my lunch. So I came in the last hour of the day, took an English final, went to practice and went home, which was great, and then had to take 2 finals on the last day. But they were pretty easy finals.
my hardest classes, I ended up getting projects instead of finals, which was really nice. I like to take finals for things like English and PE.
And the coin flip here is just to decide who's home and who's visiting, or what's the significance of the coin flip?
So I believe that decides who's going to be red and who's going to be green. Now, I'm not sure who will be until we get out there, which the significance that has is it decides, if you will either be under Tigers or guest. And that little box that you go and stand on, you put your foot on the line. There's a red one and a green one. And you put your foot on whatever line is your color. And in tournaments, to make it easier, since it's not a team, they will put a colored band anklet on your ankle. It'll either be green or red. So in a lot of cases, a guy has red shoes or a really red singlet, they'll give him red, and the same thing if a guy wears a bunch of green. Which the last tournament we were at Springfield, it was pretty funny to see. We were at just regular Springfield High School, and there was this school who drove all the way from Indiana called Avon, and they just from 106 to 182, they had all their kids in the finals, and I'm pretty sure all of them won.
Oh, wow.
Their 195 took
dominance.
Oh, yeah. They live in the middle of nowhere, and all they had to do was go to the weight room. So they just go and lift weights all day. Their 195 took third, and they didn't have a 220 or a heavyweight. So, but still, that's. I mean, I straight asked one of the guys, I was like, "What do you guys do out there?" And he's like, "We go to the weight room, and that's really about it. There's nothing to do here."
No distractions.
Oh, yeah. It's not like, say you live in Chicago and, your friend's like, oh, let's go, maybe over the summer you're playing football and your friends are like, oh, let's go to Six Flags. Let's get practice. And, in smaller areas like that, what are you going to do? What are you just get practice and, there's nothing really to do unless you're going to stay home and sleep. Even here, we had people would skip practice, and it was just they wouldn't even really do anything, They just kind of skipped practice to skip practice, Maybe some of them would just stay home. It always ended up dependent on the situation, and most people didn't have a legitimate reason as to why they weren't at practice. And we're starting with a forfeit, and I think we're starting with 2 forfeits. Oh, nope. And it'll be Darnell getting his second match of the night.
And it's 132. Oh, and he gets the forfeit.
So 6-6. Another forfeit for Centennial at 38. And does Latrice have a match? It looks like she does. Never mind. She also gets a forfeit. So it's 12-12 team score. And Amin Hill is getting a match. I believe that he will be getting one. So Centennial will be under Tigers as they are green and Urbana is red.
And as matches get started and they both kind of stand up like that, they're kind of just feeling each other out, right?
Yeah. Now that that's probably not the smartest thing to do because they're both standing straight up. You wanna keep your legs bent, keep your knees bent. Because I mean, if you're just standing straight up, you're just kind of inviting him to come and take your legs.
And Centennial trying for this pin right here.
Still fighting it off. Still a pretty long way to go, though. I mean, in wrestling, seconds can make a huge difference. So, and that'll be the match.
Yeah, the Tigers fighting that off for as long as they could there. Centennial gets the pin.
And it'll be Trayton Woods up now.
Well, first a forfeit there.
We had when we wrestled MacArthur and Eisenhower, it was the duel was over after maybe an hour and a half, if that, because the matches went by so quick because all the teams were so small.
And we're watching the 182 matchup here between the Urbana Tigers and Centennial Chargers.
Sorry about that. And I believe after this it'll be Jeremy Macharo again. Trey, a lot of times, the first period's not always the best for him, but he'll bring it up and turn it around, and especially in the third period, he seems to just really turn something on.
Centennial up 6-2 over Trey with about 10 seconds left here in the first period. Centennial over the Tigers team score right now, 24-12.
Yeah, and I mean Centennial, they have a pretty decent program. They fill out a lot more than we do. We usually have problems getting people to come in, just sticking with it. We may get a guy, comes in maybe a week or so, but then, they just, that's it, and then they quit and they don't come back.
And in Trey's situation here, is he trying to get to his knees now and trying
so
to get back up?
He's trying to base up, so that starts by just getting to your knees, and then you can start working to getting to your feet and breaking away. But you can't really just, as you're laying on your stomach, kind of force it out and stand up from there. It's way too hard to do that. You need to just get to your knees first and then try to work something.
Centennial up on Woods now, 12-5.
Yeah, and I mean, I know the 82 for Centennial. He's a pretty good wrestler. I believe he qualified for state last year.
Gonna get ready to enter the third period here. And although Centennial has the edge here, it's really been a somewhat even matchup between these two.
Yeah. Trey is just he's kept fighting, and but he's out there against a kid who has more experience, and sometimes there's nothing you can really do about that. So Trey's down by 12 here, but I mean, still, anything could happen. This is normally more the pride time. Just kind of go out there and not let yourself get pinned.
And Centennial gets the pin right there. 26 seconds remaining in the third, so Centennial awarded 6 points right there. Good effort from Trey, but too much to handle.
And Jeremy Macharo back out at the 195 weight class.
And comparing the different weight classes really on the far ends of each other, when you look at 106 or the 13, comparing it to the heavyweight or the 220, is there a different style of wrestling that goes along with those?
Yeah, definitely. So like there's certain moves that only really little guys like to hit, because with bigger guys there's certain moves where you're fighting off a lot of belly room. Where the guy is much bigger, so you gotta fight off a lot more than you would if it was just, say, if the guy just kind of had a flat stomach and was like 113 pounds. I know. Also with the smaller weights, it's more, a lot more. Quick, you got to be quicker. You got to stuff like that, and then the with the bigger weights, you got to know how to use your strength, right? Now, obviously, you get those guys who are pretty quick at some of the bigger weight classes. Like AJ was one of them. He was incredibly quick at 182. And then, one big move that a lot of heavyweights will use, since a lot of them aren't big in shooting, they'll try to snap him and get a front headlock in, as opposed to, shooting on him and getting all that weight on him. They'd rather just, snap him and try to get him down from there, as opposed to, shooting on him and then getting all that weight put on him. It's not fun when you got a big guy on you. Really being on bottom is not fun in any weight class, just because regardless, that's still another person on you. That's a lot of weight. Even if it's only, a 98-pound guy, it's still it's not exactly, easy.
Macharo up 3-2 here, 136 in the second period. He's on top here, working to flip him over. Centennial escapes.
And the big emphasis on top or bottom is really just a good first move. So whether that's you trying to break him down or you trying to get up, your first move has to be really good. You got to work to get out there. You can't, be all sluggish about it, or else something's going to happen and you're not going to like it. Jeremy trying to hit a sit out there, which is basically, that's another form of an escape where, you cross your hands so that way he can't get the hand that he has his elbow on, and you just kind of try to turn away from him. I know with Jeremy, since I've gotten a lot of time to work with him, he really likes hitting sit outs. Which it's nice because you can turn that, you can use it. Because you can hit your stand-up from there. You can work it into a stand-up, which is always really nice because, me personally, I'm more of a stand-up person. I'm not a big sit-out guy. I have a hard time with it. I'm not, the quickest guy in the world, so it's a little harder for me to get the sit out in.
Well, we're entering the third period here, and I mentioned the other match was evenly matched. These two are really evenly matched and going at it. Centennial has the edge right now, 5-4 over Urbana's Jeremy Macharo. Looks like Macharo, maybe a bloody nose or something being attended to.
Yep. You get a little bit of blood time or injury time, whatever it is. So that way, you can get cleaned up. You can get whatever it is covered. Just so that way you got time and you can you're not, out there wrestling a match, covered in blood. And what Jeremy just did there, so Centennial was going to take bottom, but he told the ref, just give him the point and let us go neutral, which I've been in a few matches where that's happened, where, they feel like they can take him down, so they'd rather just go neutral, and instead of working top, just go neutral, try to get the takedown, and then try to turn him from there.
And we have a minute left here in the third period. Centennial up 6-4 over the Tigers. 195 match here. Jeremy Macharo.
And Centennial just got warned that, stalling, and if he does it again, that's a point for Jeremy. Obviously at this point he really needs to, with about 35 seconds left, short time, so he's got to try to get that 2 points. And now Jeremy got a warning, so either one of them do it again, it's a point the other way. And Jeremy's going to have to hit something here.
Yeah, just 11 seconds left here. Centennial makes the move. Jeremy trying to stay on top of him here. No
and
points
Jeremy,
awarded.
Go, 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 go!
Well, that was probably one of the most competitive matches we've seen this evening. Unfortunately, Urbana comes up on the losing end of that one.
Yep. Oh,
Centennial
and
wins the 195er.
I think I'm just now noticing there will be a JV match when this is over. A sophomore heavyweight Drayden Shelton will be getting a match in, it looks like.
Ah.
And Andre Hunt back up at the 220 weight class. And that's going to be a point, Andre. That's a technical violation. That's locked hands, so you cannot lock your hands up. That's a point the other way. And I believe if you do it a certain amount of times, then you just end up getting disqualified. Now, the one thing I am happy to say the IHSA fixed was people used to, if you were standing up and you had your hands locked, guys would drop to a knee, fishing for points, just trying to get extra points or trying to score in general. And I know it cost a couple people have said, like it cost me a trip to state. And it was ridiculous that people could do that as many times as they wanted. So they changed that. So the first time it happens, they'll still give you the locked hands. It'll be against you. But if the ref sees it's happening more than once, then he's going to start docking you points. And Andre is now tied here, and now we'll have the lead as Centennial says he wants to go back up with him.
You can really hear the Centennial faithful here as he battles and gets the pin.
Yep.
Over Andre Hunt for the Tigers. That was the 220 matchup.
Yep, and out comes Luke Luffman, and yep, he'll be getting a match. Glad to see they're not just gonna say no, we're not gonna put our kid out there. Happy that that Luke's getting a match. I know he said it's always kind of annoying when a coach doesn't want to throw his kid out there and just thinking that Luke's gonna go out there and hurt him or something, when obviously he has no intentions of that. And a lot of times, you hear a lot of yelling in the matches. With Luke, they more so just they let him go out there and do his thing. They'll, if they see something there that maybe he's not catching, they'll start yelling it. But for the most part, he just goes out there and they just kind of let him be, let him wrestle, let him do his thing, and it's usually pretty quiet.
And he's working for the pin here. Centennial battling, though, so credit to the Chargers.
So he'll have a 5-0 lead after a takedown and 3 near fall. It's looking like he's about to give Centennial a warning for stalling. And Luke puts him to his back again, and that'll be the match.
So good effort there from the Chargers, but kind of as we expected,
Right.
Luffman is a beast.
Right. I mean,
for lack of a better term,
when you're
he's very, very good at this.
When you're a second-year guy and you're being told, you're going out there against the guy who's just won state twice in a row, is most likely going to take a third and play 7th in the world team with the world team in Greco. I mean, it's going to be a rough match. And sophomore Drayden Shelton will get a JV match in.
And since this is a JV match, this isn't necessarily counting towards any team
no
score
points,
or
just
anything like that.
Just get out there and get a match in. I believe Drayden said he has wrestled this kid before at a tournament, and he beat him.
Well, we'll see what happens here tonight.
Oh, we have a forfeit before that, I believe. A 106. Yeah, that's a 106. That's definitely a 106 pounder. We have not had a 106 pounder since my freshman year, Tyler Mead, but he ended up moving and other complications came around. He wasn't able to wrestle, but.
And this JV match will be a 220?
A heavyweight.
A heavyweight, okay.
So Drayden is a heavyweight, and I believe this kid looks to be a heavyweight as well. A lot of JV heavyweight matches, they're not as much action, more so just kind of trying to snap them down, not really shooting a bunch. Drayden, I believe, has been wrestling since the 6th grade was his first year, I believe. And you know, he's pretty good. You know, obviously he still needs to get a little more high school experience. You know, doesn't get, you know, hasn't broken through on the varsity yet, obviously, you know, sitting behind Luke Luffman. And last year he just felt he wasn't fully ready for it. And a guy who just decided this year he needed to focus on his job, Jesse Godwin, was our varsity heavyweight last season. But next year it'll most likely be Drayden. And Drayden with the quick 2. And he just cuts him, lets him back up, and they'll go from neutral again. And he gets another one. And I think his strategy for this is just keep cutting him and letting him up.
Now, are there separate JV meets?
Yes, so, well, tournaments at least, yes. There's no real, like, JV duels. They go to their own tournaments. There are a couple guys who, like you saw, wrestle tonight, but they'll go to a JV tournament just because they're younger, don't have as much experience, and they need to get more mat time. And that's that. Yep, STM and Central are finished, so let's wrap it up for the night.
All right. Well, for Michael Monreal, a big thank you to you. I would
Thank
be
you for having
clueless up here without you and all of your knowledge. As Urbana High School senior Michael Monreal, I'm Jason Liggett. Best of luck to you. Hopefully, I think we'll be back here on Tuesday, January 15th for Rantoul, as you guys face Rantoul. Hopefully, I'll see you on the mat, but if not, you're always more than welcome to join us in the broadcast booth. Our next broadcast on the Tigers Media Network is Tuesday, January 8th for boys basketball at 7:30 Danville. You can, of course, stream that live on the NFHS network. We'll have it for you later on Urbana Public Television and on our YouTube channel. Once again, for Michael Monreal, I'm Jason Liggett. Thanks so much for joining us on the Tigers Media Network.